About nations as brands, and of course, you must know that India is a very powerful brand in Israel. And our beautiful first panel highlighted the fact, and our beautiful hostess highlighted the fact that you are known for this, right? Imagine how powerful it is that it became the most common greeting in the digital language globally today. Brand India in Israel is associated with kindness, with open hearts, with open minds, and with friendliness. It's a very powerful brand in Israel. Every young Israeli, the first thing they do after military service, including my own daughter, they come to India. My own nephew is here somewhere. He's been here for 2 years. I have no idea where he is. But he's having the time of his life. And I think that, like Israel, there are many similarities, other than the fact that we're both hugely populated countries, right? You're at 1.5 billion and we're 9.5 million. But still, there are many similarities. One of them is that we both combine ancient history with a very modern outlook to the future. And I think that's what brings our nations together in a very big way. We spoke here about what is the meaning of a place as a brand. I'd like to share with you a definition I heard from my late friend Michael Peters, who did the brand for the United Kingdom under the leadership of Tony Blair back in the day. And he coined the term, a brand is a promise. A strong brand is a promise delivered. And we always measure the promise and the delivery on the promise against the expectation. And again, in the case of India, you're blessed to have a very powerful brand. Now, in some cases, the identity, the DNA of the brand is organic. Like in the case of Brazil or like in the case of India, it's a function of your history, sometimes your climate, sometimes your own culture. But in other cases, the brand can be created, can be designed. Like, for example, in the case of Las Vegas. When we think of Las Vegas, we think of permission to commit sin. That's the strategy. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? This was created by some very creative minds. But in other places, for example, Paris is associated in people's minds with romantic feelings, with romance. Who branded Paris as the world's capital of romance? Hollywood. Hollywood is the #1 branding agent in the world. And when we think of the United States, regardless of who is occupying the White House, the United States is associated in people's minds with the pursuit of liberty and freedom. And the Statue of Liberty is only the visual articulation of that brand strategy. And of course, when you think of Tel Aviv, and we just heard about Tel Aviv, that's where I was born. Tel Aviv is associated in the world as a place that never sleeps. The strategy for Tel Aviv is non-stop. Why non-stop is working? Because non-stop corresponds effectively with the pluses and the minuses of the place. Non-stop means non-stop energy, non-stop vibrancy, bubbly nature of the place, but at the same time it could also mean non-stop traffic jams and air pollution and noise and traffic tickets. I have lots of them in my car back home. So Israel's brand is all about boundless creativity. The story of Israel's startup nation begins with the story of Israel's creative spirit. Today, in the 50 minutes I have left in my presentation, just kidding, testing your attention, I will try to provide some historical background. What are the origins of Israel's creative spirit? And then we'll talk a little bit about what is being done. The first thing to know about the origins of Israel's brand is Jewish tradition. And particularly the tradition of debate. In Judaism, people are given the permission to argue. In fact, that's what we do 24/7. It's overbearing sometimes, I know that. I have to deal with Israelis myself. But this very argumentative nature is the oil that runs the engine of creativity. That's how ideas are being put forth by the people. The culture is encouraging people to argue constantly. The second thing, Israelis have a very interesting relationship with the concept of failure. We don't celebrate failure, but we tolerate failure. It's a big difference. What does it mean to have a healthy relationship with failure? First of all, realizing that every rejection that you get brings you closer to the yes. The founder, the person who had the vision of the state of Israel, his name was Theodor Herzl. He was a writer, a journalist, and he met with just about every world leader at the time, from the Sultan to the Kaiser, and they all said no to the idea of a Jewish state. But he never stopped his persistence. And he said, you may think I'm crazy, this is 1897. He said, you may think I'm crazy, but in 50 years' time, there is going to be a state of Israel. And sure enough, there was a state of Israel in 50 years' time. Failure is viewed by Israelis as an opportunity to learn. As an opportunity to learn. Very, very important to understand, and high level of tolerating mistakes. A third building block of Startup Nation is the fact that Israel emerged out of a very long history of persecution. And that creates, the word melting pot is not so popular anymore, at least in America, it's not politically correct. But I can tell you that, look at my own story. So my family, my father's family came from Uzbekistan in mid-19th century, settled in Jerusalem. My mother's family came from Yemen, settled in Tel Aviv in early 20th century. So my parents are both Palestinians. My wife actually was born in Los Angeles, but her family came to America from what is Germany, Hungary, and Russia. And we have 3 kids. My oldest daughter married a British guy. My young daughter married a French guy. My son is not married anymore. So tell me, what are we exactly in my family? What languages do we speak in my family? So Israel represents a very interesting story of survivability against all odds, and that creates a very strong instinct. And the key is to understand that Israel was established with no built-in advantages. All we had were actually disadvantages. We didn't have water, we didn't have oil, we didn't have natural gas. And of course, the last thing is understanding and realizing that adaptability is the key to survivability. And the view of change as the only permanent things in life.